Mom. What are you doing today?
Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, an ideal rental setting for retirees to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We have bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, and wellness and entertainment programs. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Mom, call me when you're not so busy.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
I'm Nick Morganelli. I've got an interview with Bishop Mitch on his recent trip to Rome and meeting with Pope Francis.
Pope Francis's cross-country standout Emily Booten wins Western Mass. I'm Carolee McGrath. I'll have the story.
And we'll take you on a tour of the Museum of Family Prayer. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel, coming to you today from the Museum of Family Prayer located in northeastern Massachusetts. The first of its kind museum was opened by Holy Cross Family Ministries this year, offering folks a unique, interactive experience of prayer using digital media. We will give you a walking tour coming up in just a bit, but first, New England bishops recently visited Rome for a meeting with the Holy Father that happens just once every 5 years. Nick Morganelli caught up with our own Bishop Mitchell Rosansky and shares the importance of ad limina.
Bishop Rosansky celebrated Mass at St. Michael's Cathedral last weekend after his pilgrimage to Rome for a very special meeting of bishops that happens once every 5 years.
It was a privilege to be the first region to go from New England, and we met with those different prefects of the dicasteries.
A word you may not be familiar with is dicastery. Now, Pope Francis, of course, is the head of the governing body of the Roman Catholic Church called the Holy See. The Roman Curia is the administration of the governing body, and within that are departments called dicasteries.
Two things that I noticed that was different from when I visited for ad limina in 2012. One, there are more women on dicasteries in leadership positions, and two, it was much more dialogue. We did a lot of the talking.
And one phrase you may not be familiar with is ad limina, also the name of this meeting.
It is a privilege to be able to go over to Rome to the ad limina visit. And ad limina literally means to the threshold. And we celebrated Mass at the tomb of St. Peter. Later in the morning, we met for 2 hours with Pope Francis. So we saw the tomb of Peter, and then we met with Peter's successor. And that, of course, was the highlight of our pilgrimage to Rome. When we went to meet with him, he opened up the conversation. He was very welcoming, and he said, "Tell me what's on your hearts." So that was a beautiful way of dialoguing with the Holy Father. In this region, we struggle with those who no longer practice the faith and ways in which we can invite them back to practicing the faith. To each of our concerns and what we have expressed, he answered us as fully as he could, and I was just in awe of his knowledge of not only the Church in the United States, but our region of New England. So I took it that he did a lot of homework before we got there. We meet with different heads of dicasteries, of Vatican offices, and present to them our concerns and our needs and our vision, and they present to us their advice on how they would like us to really follow the way of the gospel and present in different parts of the church to the United States.
It's important for the Holy Father to hear from churches in different areas of the United States, as each has its own priorities.
We represent really our New England region. So all of the bishops that are there really have common ministry in the sense that we're of one region of the United States in New England. and also in presenting to the Holy Father the state of the Church in New England and what our struggles are, what our hopes are, and also hearing his reflections for us as bishops.
There was also time for prayer together, of course.
The three highlights that I would say, of course, was the meeting with Pope Francis. We met with him for 2 hours to see women in leadership positions in the Vatican and to see that there was much more give and take in the dialogue. Our last meeting was with the dicastery that deals with the new evangelization. Archbishop Finicella of that dicastery knew about New England and knew the challenges of our region. So we talked about different ways in which to evangelize. So it was really good.
For Real to Real, I'm Nick Morganelli.
And for more information on the Bishop's Ad Limina visit, head over to our new site, iobserve.org. And as I said at the top of the show, we are at the Museum of Family Prayer in Northeastern Massachusetts, where visitors who want to explore more about prayer can do so through the many lively interactive exhibits here. And joining me now is Holy Cross Father Willie Raymond, who is president of Holy Cross Family Ministries, to tell us more. And thank you so much for having us, Father.
I'm delighted to have you here visiting the Museum of Family Prayer.
Now, the concept of this museum, it's a new museum. You just opened recently, but prayer has been around for a long time. And tell us about the founder.
Sure. The founder is Venerable Patrick Peyton. He's on the way to being recognized as a saint for family prayer. Patrick Peyton was born in Ireland in 1909. He, at the age of 18, had to leave home and ended up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He had a dream of becoming a priest, but he was rejected over and over again. He and his brother Tom soon ended up at Notre Dame. He graduated magna cum laude. He went on to Washington to study theology for the priesthood, and there, halfway through theology, he was diagnosed with an advanced case of tuberculosis, and the doctors basically said, "You have between 2 and 4 months to live." He prayed the rosary along with friends and family, and he said day by day I was getting a little stronger and a little stronger. Eventually, I was able to persuade the doctors that I was well enough to resume my studies, and so he said I felt like I was a prisoner on death row, and all of a sudden the doors are flung open. I have this whole new lease on life. So from that time on, he promised Mary that he would spend the rest of his life spreading devotion to her, to family prayer, and especially the Rosary. He's ordained in 1941. 1942, he founds the Family Rosary Crusade. 1947, he founds Family Theater Productions in Hollywood. He got all these A-list stars during the golden age of Hollywood, Loretta Young and Gregory Peck and Bing Crosby and all of that. So he really had a major influence in Hollywood and around the world through these Rosary rallies. He died in 1992 after 51 years as a priest. We introduced his cause in 1997. He was recognized as Servant of God. And then just in 2017, he was recognized by Pope Francis as Venerable.
You have an entire museum here focusing on prayer. Why don't you take us through what folks can see when they come along here?
Sure. When they come in, the first thing we ask them to do is just go into the chapel for a moment of prayer together with whoever's with them. And then they're in the rotunda, and there they're exposed to an immersion in prayer. They'll go on this journey, the evolution of prayer, and they'll encounter one of the great apostles of family prayer and the Rosary, Father Patrick Peyton.
So you have quite a few little exhibits here that are very interactive, and people can just walk through and learn and experience. And what about this, the meaning of prayer and faith?
Sure. These are very brief testimonies of they're real people that we've asked to just share what prayer means to them. So take this guy right here.
I pray with my mom. I pray by looking at the sky. I kneel down and pray before the cross. After I pray, I feel good. After I pray, God is in my heart.
Wow.
So it's great.
Just about sums it right up there,
yes,
right?
Yes, it does. He says it all.
Well, thank you so much, Father. This has been great, and I hope that you have a lot of people that come through here and experience the power of prayer.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you're able to be here yourself, and I hope the people of Springfield, of the diocese, It's not that far, so we just get on 90 and
Definitely.
come out and visit us.
Yep. And if anybody wants more information, we will have a link at iobserve.org with all of the directions on how to get here and any more information that you'd like. And still to come on Reel to Reel, Dan Dumas will have the latest from the Diocese of Springfield. And Carolee McGrath reports on one Pope Francis prep cross-country runner taking top honors in Western Mass. These stories and more are all still to come on Reel to Reel.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passionist Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy day and join us Sunday morning. We welcome Father Thomas Shea as our Mass presider and celebrate the 33rd Sunday in Ordinary Time. The Chalice of Salvation, your spiritual connection, Sunday mornings at 10 on 22 News, and coming up next in the Berkshires on Fox 23 WXXA.
Travel with Catholic Communications in August 2020 for the pilgrimage of the decade as we experience the Oberammergau Passion Play. Join Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky and Father Gary Daly for the spiritual journey to Germany and the village of Oberammergau. Since 1634, this famous play has been performed every 10 years in this quaint alpine village. Our 10-day pilgrimage will begin in Brussels, Belgium, and continue through Cologne, Heidelberg, Oberammergau, and Munich, Germany. With daily breakfast and dinners included, pilgrims will enjoy daily Mass in many of Germany's brilliant cathedrals and churches, a cruise on the Rhine River, a tour of Cologne's cathedral treasury containing the staff of St. Peter, and a visit to Munich's famous Glockenspiel. Book this incredible opportunity now for $5,439. For more information, go to iobserve.org.
I'm Dan Dumas with your Reel to Reel news briefs. Teachers and principals from the diocese's Catholic schools gathered last month at Pope Francis Preparatory School for their annual Professional Development Day. The focus was on strategies for maximizing classroom time. Rebecca Drake has more.
Catholic school educators from throughout the Springfield Diocese became students for the day as they attended the annual Educators in-Service Day 2019. Coming from the 13 Catholic elementary schools and 2 high schools in the 4 counties of western Massachusetts, the teachers and principals gathered to learn and to connect with each other.
So this is an opportunity for us to share, to be part of the bigger picture of what Catholic schools are in the Diocese of Springfield, to create kind of partnerships and bonds between these teachers who are teaching similar grades, and just to be part of a day that celebrates Catholic education, but also helps us to grow in what we're doing better.
The day began with a Mass celebrated by Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky, who expressed his gratitude for the educators and their work.
I would just like to say it's so good to see our teachers together, and I personally am very grateful to them because teaching ministry is an important part of who we are as Catholics, and they're really sharing in that ministry in such a wonderful way. So I'm personally grateful to them for their witness as teachers in our Catholic schools.
The in-service day included a keynote presentation with the theme Maximizing Instructional Time, small group breakout sessions for teachers of specific grade levels, and a chance to visit more than a dozen vendors representing educational products and institutions. But just as important as the academic benefits, says Superintendent Belarjan, is the presence of faith in the in-service day and the Catholic schools.
And so I'm so grateful to Bishop Rosansky that he comes out to be with our teachers as part of a faith community, because the value added of a Catholic education is exactly this. It's the fact that we can be open to the faith, that we are Catholic, that we can talk openly about how a relationship with Jesus Christ makes a difference in a person's life.
In Springfield, I'm Rebecca Drake.
Holyoke native Eileen Curran began her journalism career at the former Passionist Radio and TV Center in West Springfield. Curran shared stories of her media career as part of the recent Greater Holyoke Deanery 3-night mission at Blessed Sacrament Parish in Holyoke. David Martin attended and has the story.
On the upcoming election year, journalist Eileen Curran wants voters to make decisions based on facts rather than opinions, looking at what a specific candidate believes in, what his or her voting record is, and where they stand on specific issues. It was the purpose of her speech. How do you know what is real news and what isn't? Curran said that the dawn of the internet made a big difference in the validity of reporting news.
What I'm going to try to do tonight is to, teach the listeners how to be good news consumers, how to tell if a news story, one, is accurate, and two, if the source of the news is a responsible, true journalist.
Curran explained that a good way to determine if a website reporting news is trustworthy is to check that it is well written. Look for grammar mistakes, typos, and unprofessional phrasing. Another tip is to look for a section that says "Contact Us." Fake news sites do not want to be contacted, while reliable ones will want to be offered corrections and tips on different angles of the story. Curran suggested that her audience have a well-balanced media literacy by getting news from a variety of sources, such as MSNBC and Fox News. The evening began with a concert by the Holyoke High School Madrigal Singers. Curran was introduced by Father Mark Stelzer, the administrator at St. Jerome Parish in Holyoke.
We thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to invite lay people to come and speak about their own journey of faith and how in difficult times in the church they manage to balance the challenges in the church with their faith commitment. And so we turned to 3 broadcast people, professionals who are active in their parishes and their faith community, people who have witnessed firsthand so much of the struggles of the church.
Mark Stelzer, a faculty member at Elms College, said Ray Herschel, along with his wife Maureen, gave a great talk the previous night. He shared the many challenges in the church that he was covering as a young journalist and how he found hope through those in religious vocations and the laity of Western Massachusetts during his 50 years in broadcasting. For the final night, Catholic communications reporter Nick Morganelli and his wife Jean spoke of their family in Building Our House on Rock. In Holyoke, I'm David Martin.
And remember, you can always stay informed on all the latest news in the Catholic Church locally and beyond by logging on to iobserve.org. There you can read articles written by our Catholic communications staff, as well as view archived episodes of Real to Real. That's iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and those were your Real to Real news briefs.
Molly Burns, the founder of Goodlands, has released some 100 treasure maps of the Catholic Church, presenting a new way of looking at and ultimately using Catholic land resources to do good for people and the environment. We get more now in this Catholic News Service piece.
Molly Burns is sharing her treasure maps with the world, helping people explore a trove of information about the global Catholic Church.
What we're sharing with you is the first global vision of the Catholic Church that's ever been presented, her people, her presence, her footprint around the world.
The young woman founded Goodlands, a nonprofit digital mapping and consulting firm. It focuses on using Catholic land resources to do good for people and for the environment. She is releasing more than 100 maps and data sets free online on the new Catholic GeoHub. One of Goodlands' maps illustrates the priest shortage around the world, which was a key issue at the recent Synod of Bishops for the Amazon.
They knew that data would be absolutely critical for helping these conversations find a common ground in dialogue, for people to say, I have a priest shortage too, but actually being able to say, wow, I have a priest shortage and I'm serving 7,000 priests, Catholics per priest in my diocese, you're serving 20,000. That's a totally different level of pastoral crisis that they're facing. And I think, having the data there really brings facts to the conversation. And I hope empathy for where people are coming from.
The Catholic GeoHub can be used in a variety of ways. It's the only place in the world where one can see the boundaries of every Catholic diocese in the world. People can use it to see the ratio of Catholic laity to priests in each diocese. And they can even check the carbon footprint of their own diocese.
We have a lot of resources, and we have a duty to use those well. Using our land, I think, is a whole nother dimension of stewardship for our communities that will enhance everything we do and could change the world.
The Catholic Campaign for Human Development, or CCHD, was launched in 1969 by the bishops of the United States to fight poverty. This program has worked now for 50 years to address the root causes of poverty. CCHD funds projects in the community. Next weekend, the annual CCHD collection is being taken up in all parishes in the Diocese of Springfield. Joining me now to talk more about the works of this program is Catherine Buckley Bronner, Director of Catholic Charities for the Diocese of Springfield. Hi, Catherine. Thanks for being with us today.
Good evening, Sharon. It's nice to be here.
Bringing change to people's lives and empowering people who live in poverty has been something that the Catholic Campaign for Human Development has been doing now for 50 years. And this year, working on the margins is the theme for the collection. Tell us your thoughts on what the campaign is trying to do.
Catholic Campaign for Human Development has always been about really reaching out to the margins of our society and really trying to discover some of the things that make and keep people in a place of poverty. It asks a lot of questions, and it certainly looks at some of the systemic and ways that we do business that actually are designed not to be helpful to those who are trying to lift themselves out of poverty.
Sometimes I think we get frustrated and overwhelmed when we hear these statistics and these facts and we think, oh, I can't possibly make a difference. But is this true? How can each person in their own small or maybe not so small way help?
Well, we do have large statistics when we're talking about millions of people throughout the United States who do experience poverty, and children who live out their lives in poverty in what is one of the richest countries in the world. What we do know, though, is that through a way of being in solidarity with one another, those that have and maybe those that do not have as much, we can actually undo some of those systems that actually keep people in poverty. Every day we work hard for that through economic development programs, through community organizings, which keep and allow people to have their own voice in making those changes for their community, for the health of that community.
And the funds collected go to help national as well as local programs?
Yes, the funds, 25% of the funds stay here, 75% of the funds go to our national USCCB arm. But what is really important to remember is that we actually here at the Diocese of Springfield have consistently gotten more funding for our programs than we actually give into the total Campaign for Human Development collection. So we've been very fortunate, but it also speaks to the really wonderful work that our community organizing groups and our economic development groups have been doing in this area.
All right, thanks so much, Catherine Buckley Bronner. And again, the Catholic Campaign for Human Development collection will be taken up in all parishes in the Diocese of Springfield next weekend. And for more information, we have a link at iobserve.org. Pope Francis Preparatory School's own Emily Booten is flying high. She just won the Western Mass Division II Cross Country Championship last weekend. Carolee McGrath has more on this star athlete and dedicated student.
The Pope Francis girls cross-country team warmed up on a recent afternoon, getting ready for one of the biggest meets of the season, Western Mass. And their own Emily Booten was the favorite for the Division II championship, and for good reason. She won last year and recently broke 18 minutes for the 3.1-mile cross-country course. That's under a 6-minute mile, and she certainly makes it look easy.
It kind of started out with a general expectation of I just really wanted to PR. I really wanted to break 18 in cross-country, and I had the opportunity to do that at a Twilight meet down in Cape Cod, and then I was not expecting it, but at the PVIAC meet, I ended up breaking that PR by 1 second again.
For a time of 17:57.
And I've been coaching for 25 years. I can only think about 3 or 4 girls that have ever run that fast between Division I or II.
John Goda is the athletic director at Pope Francis, as well as the girls' cross-country and track coach.
She's got a lot of talent. We knew that from pretty much day one when she came out as a freshman. You know, and I mean, the only thing that really held her back with her first 2 years, because I think she could have won a lot more, was just a lot of injuries. So I would say that probably the thing that's impressing most about her is just the fact that she's hung in there. No matter how many times how many setbacks she had, how many times she got injured, she kept picking herself back up, coming back out. And last year in cross country was the first time she was really healthy for the entire season, and she hasn't looked back.
On the day of the Western Mass Championship, it was frigid on Northfield Mountain. But after a prayer, the runners were off, tackling a hilly course. And Emily came across the finish line first.
I basically just want to focus on myself, focus on my form, and then I usually try to, practice gratitude, because as much as it hurts, you're suffering so much when you run. I just want to focus on, I'm thankful I'm here, I'm thankful that I'm healthy to do this, and just thanking the people along the way who've gotten me there.
Emily also runs indoor and outdoor track and has been recruited to run for the Naval Academy. But running isn't her only talent. Emily, who went to St. Stanislaus in Chicopee for elementary school, is in all AP classes, and she can really play the piano.
My parents are my biggest motivators. They're my center, my rock. I never knew I would be a runner. Going into high school, I hated physical activity, so it was really weird for my parents to see me choose to do cross country. And then when I started training in the summer, I just fell in love with it. I love the work ethic. I love that anyone can be good at it. It just matters how hard you work. And then I fell in love with the community too. Runners are the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Let's go Cardinals! And she says she's looking forward to running for Pope Francis for 2 more seasons. Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
Emily will be competing in all states this weekend, and we wish her the best of luck. And a reminder that there will be a special memorial anniversary mass for Bishop Joseph McGuire in commemoration of his 5th anniversary of his death on Thursday, November 21st. Bishop Mitchell Rosansky will celebrate the 4 p.m. Mass at St. Michael's Cathedral. A reception will follow in the Bishop Marshall Center. And for this week, that's Reel to Reel. Thanks so much to the folks here at the Museum of Family Prayer for hosting our visit today, and thank you for watching. Remember, for more updates anytime, you can find information and news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world on our news and information site, iobserve.org. We are also on Facebook, updating daily while our reporters work on stories for Reel to Reel. So check us out and friend us at Catholic Communications. We will see you next week for another edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.